Come on, play it for me. There's not much a poor family like yours can play anyway, my mother-in-law said at her birthday party. Everyone there, her friends, her daughter's friends, and relatives, turned to look at me. My mother-in-law, eager to embarrass me, grinned and stared. I slowly placed my fingers on the keyboard. My name is Noriko, a 36-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Tom and our daughter Hannah, who's in the 5th grade. I have a kind husband and a lovely daughter, and my life is generally happy. But there's one problem, my relationship with my mother-in-law. As soon as she saw Hannah, my mother-in-law rushed over and hugged her tightly. Hannah, it's been so long. You've grown up and become so pretty. Really, Grandma? Hannah replied, smiling. My mother-in-law was happily chatting with Hannah, but when she noticed me, she glared sharply. What are you doing? Isn't it common courtesy to offer tea to your mother-in-law, or are you saying you can't even do that? Grandma, Hannah started, but my mother-in-law cut her off. Oh, Hannah, why wouldn't you come with me to the shopping mall? You can have a big buffet. I want to go, Hannah said, but she glanced at me, unsure what to do. She seemed worried about the tension between us. Go with your grandmother, Hannah, I said, smiling at her to reassure her. She smiled back, relieved. Let's go, Grandma. Hannah cheerfully pulled her grandmother's hand. I'll take good care of Hannah, my mother-in-law said in a sarcastic tone, looking victorious as she left with Hannah for the shopping mall. The problem I have is that I don't get along with my mother-in-law. When I was with my husband, she was kind to me and I was relieved. But as soon as we were alone, she started verbally abusing me. My son told me you graduated from a junior college, right? Yes, I did, I replied. You were slow to answer. I wonder why Tom picked you, she sneered. What do you mean by that? I asked, feeling uneasy. Do you have something to complain about? She continued. Tom is an elite who graduated from one of the best private universities, but he fell in love with you, a poor woman with only a junior college degree. I tolerate you because you're Tom's wife, but honestly, I wouldn't even want to breathe the same air as someone like you. What's wrong with a junior college degree? I asked. You don't have enough education, money, or understanding. This is why I can't stand junior college graduates, she said harshly. I'll try to be friendly in front of others, but please stay away from me as much as possible. Since then, she's been cruel to me whenever no one else is around. Her harsh words don't bother me much, as she made it clear that I should just keep my distance. The real problem is my daughter, Hannah. My mother-in-law adores her grandchildren, so she visits us every few days and takes Hannah away, just like she's doing now. She's a good grandmother to Hannah, so I can't confront her about it. Mom, don't you get along with Grandma? Hannah asked me one day, looking worried. My heart ached. No, we do. We get along, I lied, trying to protect her. But Grandma says you mistreat her, Hannah continued. I'm the one being mistreated, I thought but didn't say out loud. Instead, I replied, maybe it's because we had a disagreement recently. Mom, you have to make up with Grandma, Hannah insisted. Yes, you're right, I said, forcing a smile, even though I felt hurt inside. One day, my mother-in-law came over and said, Hannah told me you teach piano. Yes, I'm teaching her, I replied. I inherited an old grand piano from my father, and even though it's aged, it's precious to me. I used to play my favorite songs on it, and Hannah would listen. One day she said, Mom, I want to play the piano too, so I started teaching her. I'm not the best teacher, but her enthusiasm touched me, and the time we spend playing together is precious. As I was thinking about this, my mother-in-law looked at me with disdain and said, Take my place. My mother-in-law growled in a low voice, Take my place. From now on, I will teach Hannah the piano, not you. I don't want a poor person like you teaching her. Don't you feel sorry for Hannah? I was shocked by her harsh words, and she continued, even angrier. What's wrong? Do you want to complain? No, it's nothing, I replied, trying to stay calm. I'll explain it in a way you can understand. I'm a better teacher than you. Why do you think that? I asked, confused. Because I graduated from an elite music school, unlike you, who only went to a junior college. What? I didn't know that, I stammered. I'm sure even you've heard of TG University, she said, proud of her background. She often boasted about her education. TG University is one of the best schools for music students. If she graduated from there, she must have excellent piano skills. Even you can understand that we're not on the same level, she added, looking down on me. My throat tightened. It was true that TG University is a prestigious music school, and it might be better for Hannah to learn from someone with that background. But that would mean I'd lose even more time with my daughter. My mother-in-law was already taking so much time away from me, and now she wanted to take even more. That's the one thing I couldn't let happen. Even though you graduated from a prestigious music university, the time I spend teaching my daughter is precious and irreplaceable, I said, trying to stand my ground. Isn't that selfish of you? She sighed loudly, cutting me off. I don't mean it that way, I tried to explain. What do you mean then? You're standing in front of me, a graduate of TG University, an elite musician, she said, clearly believing she was superior. My mother-in-law sneered. Normally, you'd have to pay for piano lessons, but out of my kindness, I'm offering to teach Hannah for free. How can you refuse? You don't even have much skill, so don't talk to me like that. Determined, I replied, I'll play in front of you and prove that I have the skills to teach my daughter. Who would want to listen to a poor girl like you play? Your music would make anyone's ears rot, she mocked. Then what should I do? How can I prove I'm good enough? I asked, desperate. You don't need to prove anything, just do what I say. I've already told Hannah, she said with a smirk. I couldn't believe my ears. My mother-in-law had spoken to my daughter without my knowledge. I started to sweat, nervous about what she might have said. I told Hannah that I'm going to teach her piano from now on. I graduated from a famous music academy and I'm better at playing the piano than you. You even admitted it would be better for her, she continued. Why are you being so selfish? I asked, feeling cornered. I didn't expect you to fight back this much. I'm a graduate of an elite music college and more skilled than you, so yes, I thought I could take your place easily. You're really being picky, aren't you? This is already decided, so don't be selfish anymore. After saying everything she wanted, my mother-in-law quickly left the room. Since then, she has been coming to our house every day to teach Hannah piano. I'm not even allowed to enter the room while she's teaching. Whenever Hannah takes a break, my mother-in-law makes sure I'm out of sight before she says, You don't understand, but Hannah has a talent for music. To develop that talent, she needs proper skills and education. As someone who only went to a junior college, you lack both. If you try to teach her, you'll ruin her talent. Do you understand? Yes, I whispered, holding back tears. Good. Then don't disturb us in the future. We don't want you around, okay? She said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. As I fought to keep the tears from spilling over, my mother-in-law smiled smugly at me. With a painful heart, I watched her go to Hannah, ready to take over the precious time I used to share with my daughter. I once asked my husband to talk to my mother-in-law about her behavior, but he didn't think it was a big deal. What's wrong with her teaching Hannah to play the piano? He asked. It's not just that, I explained. She's taking away precious time that I could be spending with Hannah. You're exaggerating, he said dismissively. Mom just wants to help. Why are you being so critical? She's trying to make things easier for you. No, she's not helping, I insisted. I'll talk to her, okay, but don't get so upset. Besides, she doesn't really listen to me. It's true that from the outside, my mother-in-law might seem like a helpful person who's involved in raising my child, but in reality, she's trying to take my daughter away from me and no one understands how much that hurts. I keep telling myself that I have to put up with it for Hannah's sake, but it's so frustrating. Then the worst thing happened. Natalie, come here and look at this. My mother-in-law called me into the piano room, a place I hadn't been allowed to enter recently. When I walked in, I was shocked to see a brand new piano. Do you see it? We just got a new piano, my mother-in-law said with a smile. But what happened to my father's piano? I asked, my heart sinking. Oh, I threw it away, she replied casually. You threw it away, I gasped. Yes, it was falling apart, she said, as if it was no big deal. I felt tears well up in my eyes. That piano was my father's. It was full of memories for me. It didn't matter to me, she said, brushing off my concerns. That old piano wasn't good enough for me or Hannah. How did you get rid of it? I asked, hoping she was lying. I called a contractor and had it disposed of while you were out, she answered without hesitation. Did you enter the house without permission? I asked, shocked. What do you mean? I always do that. There's no difference whether you're here or not, she said nonchalantly. But it is a big difference. You can't just come into the house and throw away someone's belongings without permission. How could she do that? I thought, feeling a surge of anger. Shut up. I did you a favor by getting rid of that old piano and buying a new one for you, my mother-in-law snapped. You should be grateful, not yelling at me. She shoved me out of the piano room and kicked me out. You don't seem to understand the value of this piano. Don't you dare touch it without my permission. And of course you can't enter this room either. Right now, Hannah is practicing a song for my birthday party. People like you just get in the way of her practice. That was the last straw for me. The door slammed shut, echoing through the house. Later that night, I approached Hannah. Hey, sweetie, are you practicing a song for Grandma's birthday party? Yes, Mom, I'm working hard. Will you listen to me? Of course, I will, I said, smiling. By the way, Hannah, I have a favor to ask you. Hannah looked up at me cheerfully. What is it, Mom? Finally, the day of my mother-in-law's birthday party arrived. The house was filled with relatives, neighbors, friends of my mother-in-law, and several of Hannah's friends. My mother-in-law had sent out invitations, insisting that everyone come to hear her granddaughter play the piano for her special day. It was clear she had been eagerly anticipating this moment. As I spent the entire morning preparing food and baking a cake, my husband and daughter helped me, but my mother-in-law didn't lift a finger. It was her birthday, after all, but I wished she had acknowledged all the work I was doing. When the party was finally ready, my mother-in-law stood up in front of everyone and exclaimed, "Thank you so much for coming to celebrate with me." She acted like a star on stage, basking in the attention. After everyone had enjoyed the meal and some conversation, Hannah stood up and moved toward my mother-in-law. "Happy birthday, Grandma, I have a present for you." She sat down at the piano and began to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The tune was sweet, and everyone smiled, but it was clear that her skills had slipped. I knew she could have played better, and the performance ended with a shy smile from Hannah. "You did a great job," my mother-in-law said, beaming. "Thank you, Grandma, and now I have a favor to ask you," Hannah said. "Oh, what is it?" my mother-in-law asked, a bit surprised. "I want to hear you play, not the easy ones, but the hard ones, can't you?" My mother-in-law looked puzzled by Hannah's request. Her eyes darted around the room until they landed on me, and she forced a sickening smile. "Yes, you may play it, but before I do. Nicole, you said you were going to play a piece for me, didn't you?" My mother-in-law's words were unexpected, but I felt a wave of stress at the thought of performing. I hadn't played in a long time. "Yes, Hannah, now your mother is going to give us a great performance for Grandma," my mother-in-law announced cheerfully, clearly relishing the opportunity to spotlight me. The room buzzed with excitement after Hannah's sweet piano performance. Everyone turned their attention to me, eager to see what I would play next. "Well, it's not like a poor kid like you can play anything impressive," my mother-in-law whispered harshly in my ear. Her tone felt like a challenge, as if she wanted me to fail in front of my daughter. "Come on, Nicole, play for us. Everyone's curious to hear what you'll play," she mocked. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. I quietly agreed and sat down at the piano. My fingers hovered over the keys as I prepared to play. I tapped a key and began a complex and energetic piece. "What?" My mother-in-law's voice, filled with surprise, was barely audible over the sound of the piano. The piece I chose was Toccata and Fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach, a challenging and well-known work. It's famous for its complexity, but I had practiced it extensively and it was one of my specialties. I played with precision and energy, ensuring each note was clear and correct. As I finished the piece, the room was filled with stunned silence. I stood and took a graceful bow, and the audience erupted into applause. The applause and admiration from everyone felt incredible, a sensation I hadn't experienced in a long time. My mother-in-law, standing beside me, seemed flustered. "No way," she muttered under her breath. "Are you okay, mother-in-law? You don't look well," I asked, noticing her discomfort. "Oh, it's nothing," she replied curtly, trying to regain her composure. "You're pretty good," she admitted, though reluctantly. "Where did you learn such piano skills?" I smiled softly and met her gaze. "Didn't you know, mother-in-law? Even people from humble backgrounds can excel." My mother-in-law was surprised by Tom's comment about me. "What?" she asked. "Nicole won an award for excellence in a junior piano concert back in high school," Tom said. "I haven't heard her play in a long time, but it's still amazing. It's beautiful and powerful." "Oh, I'm not that great," I said quickly. "There are many people who play better than me." I ended the conversation with Tom and turned to my mother-in-law. "You graduated from TG University, a famous music college, right?" "Yes, I did," she replied. "Well, I'm curious about how you teach piano to Hannah. What kind of music do you play?" I asked. "That's not important right now," she said dismissively. "Why not? As a graduate of a top music university, you must care about it, right?" I pressed. "No, it's not necessary," she said. "Play something for me. I've always wanted to hear your performance. I even asked my daughter to play something for me." My mother-in-law's eyes widened at my request. "I only asked my daughter to play for me because I wanted to hear her grandmother play. It's part of my plan." I knew that my mother-in-law would criticize me if I played poorly, but I was confident in my piano skills. "I like to hear it too," she said. My daughter agreed cheerfully. "Grandma's fingers aren't feeling well, so she only lets me play simple pieces. But I learned from the music sheets Mom gave me." I realized that my mother-in-law had been saying Hannah's piano skills were declining, but in reality, she wasn't teaching her much. Hannah had been teaching herself. I want to hear Grandma play something difficult, not just the easy pieces she usually plays, my daughter said. I'm looking forward to it, I said. Let's listen to Grandma play together. Yes, my daughter added. Grandma plays the piano better than Mom. I've always wanted to hear her play. I was excited that today my daughter would finally get to hear her grandmother play. My mother-in-law, however, looked pale. What's wrong? I asked. Hannah is waiting for you to play. No, my mother-in-law stammered. I'm not feeling well today. But Hannah is really looking forward to your performance, I said. My mother-in-law began to sweat and looked around nervously. I can't play, she finally admitted. What do you mean you can't play? I asked. You graduated from TG University, you should be able to play well. I graduated from a teaching university with a major in conducting, she explained. I didn't specialize in piano. My hands are small, so I can't play as well as you. As the people around us started to notice and murmur, my mother-in-law's face showed her discomfort. You said you were teaching your granddaughter piano, I said, and that you play better than me. Not really, she said, trying to avoid eye contact. I don't play the piano well. I just said that to impress people. Hannah, with big eyes, asked her grandmother directly, why did you lie about being able to play the piano? No, Hannah, my mother-in-law insisted. I didn't lie. When Hannah asked why my mother-in-law was always kind to her but strict with me, I realized the truth. My mother-in-law had claimed that I mistreated her, but it was a lie. What are you talking about? My mother-in-law screamed, distressed. Of course, Nicole and I get along. There's no way I can get along with someone who would throw away a piano given to me by my father, I said. It was my most precious possession. My daughter tilted her head and said, Grandma said she didn't need the old piano anymore, so she threw it away and bought a new one. That piano was very precious to me, I said. Even if I couldn't play it anymore, I wouldn't have thrown it away. Really? Then why did you throw it away, Grandma? Didn't you know it was my mother's precious treasure? My mother-in-law shook her head frantically and kept repeating, No. The guests started to murmur and fuss as the situation grew tense. My husband, sensing the mood had worsened, asked the guests to leave. Let's call it a night, he said, urging everyone to exit. Wait, it's not true. My mother-in-law shouted. There's a reason for this. There's a reason. What's the reason? I asked, looking at her. Please don't ruin my daughter's talent because of your own selfishness, I said firmly. At my words, my mother-in-law collapsed to her knees. After that day, she never came to our house again. Her disgraceful behavior at her own birthday party meant she was no longer welcome. Her relatives and neighbors who had been at the party started spreading bad rumors about her. Now she is shunned by those around her. Despite her attempts to blame me, saying it was all my fault, no one is taking her seriously. My daughter has been learning piano from me and is getting better every day. Mom, I want to play a duet with you, she said. That might be difficult until you practice a bit more, I replied. I'll practice a lot and become better than you, Hannah said confidently. I'm sure you'll surpass me quickly, I said, and you'll be a great pianist because of your hard work. As Hannah practiced and improved, I felt so happy to spend peaceful moments with her.